We have in studio Professor George Wajackoya to help us understand the issue. He's an international law expert. Karibu sana, Prof.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for gracing us with your presence tonight. Let us begin with what is being seen as the latest diplomatic tiff, for lack of a better word. And of course, we saw the Chinese fellow who referred to Kenyans, including the president, as monkeys. What would you say about that first before we get into this conversation?
First of all, the government reaction was very inadequate. If that happened in the US or UK or even any of the EU countries where I practice immigration law, that person ought to have been produced in court first and foremost. But in this country, as it is always, the Minister for Internal Security has discretion to deport as he feels, and that in itself is a violation of Geneva Convention on Immigration Law.
Yes. So as an international law expert on immigration, how will the situation ought to have been handled?
First of all, they should have taken the fellow to court so that it could actually be processed through due process. But using the media and issuing press statements to a person whom we were not very sure, even if there were videos taken of him, was too much of an overreactive, and that should not be happening in modern Kenya today.
So you think maybe the reaction by the government was unfair to the Chinese?
Not unfair only, but it was uncouth. Because the minister followed now by issuing statements which were very reckless. He was speaking as if he was the judge. He was speaking as if he was the arresting officer, the prosecution. And that in itself shows us how we are at the level of reasoning when it comes to international issues on immigration.
Before we come to what really is the problem of the country when it comes to these immigration laws, let us look at this whole issue from a different perspective, because we understand that Kenya now has a relationship, for lack of a better word, with the Chinese country. Does it mean now that we have an influx of Chinese people in Kenya today? Does it portend any threat to our immigration laws yet?
It's not only immigration law, it's a threat to national security. It's also a threat to international peace. It's something that's beyond reproach because we do not have proper immigration laws, or even if we have, those laws have not been reformed to go in tandem with the internationally accepted jurisprudence in that area of practice. We have international immigration law conventions, which Kenya has signed, including the refugee law. But because we do not have the manpower and proper infrastructure in this country, the abuse is beyond reproach even in the courts of law. The Council of Legal Education has not sanctioned teaching of immigration law in any university. Kenya School of Law does not teach immigration law. We don't have immigration courts in this country.
Really?
And the few immigration officers who have risen from ranks of clerical officers to chief immigration, not to chief immigration officers, but to senior immigration officers through some kind of training, have not actually come in tandem with what is required as far as human rights is concerned. If you go to the UK today, we have the Immigration Acts right from 1948, the British Nationality Act, coming to 1961, 1967, 1971, which was the major overhaul, reforming Act of Immigration because of curbing off what we call the influx of foreigners as a result of independence. And then we shift that attention to the to the US, where federal immigration law has been developed over years by the federal courts through immigration courts, through immigration adjudication. You find out that that system has been taken very high because immigration law is the largest area of practice in law in the world. Why am I saying so? It is because of the following. Because of movement of goods and services of people from one country to another country, immigration law comes with business law. It also touches on commercial business, of course, family reunions, derivative applications. It also goes further into asylum and refugee law. It goes into labor certification, and all we see today is Chinese on our streets who have come in because of bilateral agreements between the government or intergovernment agreements between, like, for example, Kenya and China, where a few men and women in the executive fly out with the president through the Minister of Trade and Foreign Affairs, go sit down with Chinese interpreter, talk to the Chinese investors, And whatever happens there is what we don't know. And that's where the abuse starts from. Therefore, you'll find Chinese coming in this country who take over jobs that can be done by Kenyans. And as a result of that, it's chaotic. Look at what's happening on Thika Road. These guys cannot even speak English.
The reason why I was asking you about that is because over the recent days, we've seen claims of mistreatment by SGR officials who are Chinese towards Kenyans. And of course, a few months ago, we also saw a Chinese restaurant in Nairobi which say that it does not admit blacks after 5 p.m. In both of these cases, we've never seen something tangible come out of it. So what really is the problem? Is it the problem we have weak immigration laws, or what really is the problem to do with immigration in our country today, Prof?
Very inexperienced staff, very inexperienced members of the cabinet. Trust me, the kind of ministers we have are not well enough. They have not been exposed well enough to other countries to see how it is done. If anything, those who are within the cabinet that have gone out, they have gone out only to study. They have not stayed outside. If you look at Museveni in Uganda, for example, you look at Ethiopia and Sudan, Southern Sudan, you'll find out that the ministers who are running immigration portfolio are those people who have been outside. They have been refugees. They have learned the dynamics and infrastructural politics of the countries that hosted them while they were either outside as a result of higher education or asylum seeking. And when they come in, they put things in order. How do you expect a minister who went to Nairobi University, let me say, went to Bungoma High School, Nairobi University, went back in politics, or was appointed as a minister, has only been in a plane with a red passport when he's going to represent the government, really to know the issues of immigration? Look at these other television stations, for example, and I'm very happy to be here. This is a very dynamic day for me because this is the first time I've been invited by a television station to speak about immigration. The traditional TV stations we have are owned by politicians. Some of the editors in those TV stations do not have an idea of how to bring out content that will go in tandem with the activities, global activities, in terms of goods and movement of people, goods and services and movement of goods and services around the globe for economic propensities, have no idea. This is what we need to educate Kenyans about immigration law. We need actually to be ahead of other African countries here because we have experts who are actually there, but they are not being utilized. I'm not saying I'm looking for a job. I'm teaching and I'm also practicing law. But we have so many Kenyans outside who can come and reshape this department. Rather than employing soldiers, how do you employ a soldier, director of immigration, politically appointed? What does he know? You come with the policemanship, or you come with the army attire to police immigration? Let's have experts to run these departments.
But before we wind up on this Chinese issue, if we decide to be a little bit firm on the Chinese in Kenya today, wouldn't that be bad for business? Because the way it has been made to look like right now is that we really need them if our economy has to move.
We don't need dependency ratio, and that's the mistake that we Africans do. We have been independent for over 40 years, and we are still talking of these basket ratios. We need somebody to come and help us. Why? Why can't we do it the Nigerian way? Nigerians are the most, Nigeria as a nation is the most advanced nation when it comes to the rights of the Nigerian people in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. Why do we need Chinese to come in to do what? Why would you need a Chinese to go and do the jobs that Kenyans can do on Thika Highway? Why do we have these loopholes in immigration law, loopholes that we can actually work out with the experts so that we can seal the loopholes in that if a Chinese or a Ugandan, not Ugandan in that, or a Frenchman wants to come and work in this country, we should have the two types of red tapes. Labor certification, where they have to fulfill the higher tests applied like it does in the United States, whereby you have to apply through labor certification. You have also to prove to the Kenya government that there is no any other Kenyan available to do that job. It's only after that that you can now apply to the immigration department for the immigration also to validate your entry, so that when you are coming here, you are coming here to add value to the Kenyan labor market in terms of 1, skills, 2, experience, 4 and 3, expertise. And then when you go, you leave us with that. rather than we actually cultivating on issues of dependency ratio. That even if something breaks a little bit, we have to fly to China to bring a Chinese to come and make it for us. Hell no.
Okay, let us look at the law for a bit, and the lack of an immigration act. Do you think it's one of the biggest challenges we have? We need an act so that we can deal with all these immigration challenges in our country today?
We have an immigration act which is very outdated. The people who sat down to make that act were people who were copying and pasting. And even if that was done, it is not actually being utilized in practice. If you go to Nyayo House, you can smell corruption before even you go through the fence. There are some officers of immigration who have lived in Nyayo House for more than 10 years. They need to be shown the door to go so that we can reform that house. And I'm glad that the new director of immigration is a man that I have known for many years. He's a man who is capable of doing his job righteously. We also have the CID department there, Mr. Mwaura, who is in charge of immigration. CID is doing a superb job. But if you look at these other people, you go on the 7th floor, and you see chaos. You see Indians, I don't know where they've come from, Indians and people of Orientals coming in line with passports. Why? Because we don't have tangible services. We don't have lawyers who are trained to do this job so that we can actually enchannel. And there's also a lot of abuse by immigration officers to foreigners who come in. Issues of work permit, for example. You'll find out that if you apply for a work permit, you are not given the periodic time as to when to check on the immigration to find out. They don't give you a window. When it comes now to what Matiang'i has done, which is also another reckless mistake, of coming out and saying, now from today, foreigners who want to apply for work permit, they have to apply from the source.
From their countries. Yeah.
That is nonsense. That is impeding our trade.
Okay, Prof. Why do we as Kenya seem to be having a road deal from other countries? Because we've seen cases of Kenyans suffering in neighboring countries like South Sudan, China, and even Tanzania, whereas we as a country seem to be very hospitable and we open our arms to all everybody coming up from other countries. Why do we seem to be having and getting the road deal all the time?
Because we have got a very stupid mentality. If you go to a restaurant today with a white man, Kenyans will run to that white man to serve him, even if he's a Papua from his country, leaving another Kenyan sitting there. If you see anything white or anything foreign, the concept you have in your mind is, I'm looking at somebody who has brought in money and what have you. We should move away from that. And secondly, the soft touch by the government. The people who have in government today, I'm not holistically pointing my finger at them, they are not well conversant enough with the international issues whereby they can come in and create policies that work. Kenyans in general are very much known for this begging syndrome. I'm not talking of the poor Kenyans who are languishing in poverty. Even those people like yourself, you have to beg. Even in the media houses, I've been asked for money for me to appear. Like the begging culture is what is destroying this country.
But I have to make it clear that we did not
No,
ask for any money
not
for
here.
this
Not any other media house that are currently appearing. But I'm telling you that we have corruption everywhere, dependency ratio, and mentality which we need to come out of.
Finally, before we ended up because of time, the issue about the influx of people from Nigeria in this country who are most often than not, we see them daily being arrested and apprehended for crime. How do we deal with this issue? Because when you ask them, they say they come to Kenya for schooling.
First of all, and I have faith in Amina Mohammed, the Minister for Education. The Minister for Internal Security and the Minister for Education should work as a team. They should come up with a blueprint to tighten up, admission criteria of foreigners. They should also raise the fee for foreigners who are coming in this country. And also the Minister for Internal Security, again, should actually go a step further to regularize these people, to be reporting. For example, in the US and UK, for you to be admitted in a university, you have to pass through certain criteria. And the Home Office ministry in the UK, Department of Homeland Security in the US and Home Office in the UK, obligates the school that has admitted you to be reporting, to the Home Office or to the Homeland Security about your class attendance. And secondly, aliens, these people are classified as aliens also, not just as students. They have also to be reporting to police stations on various days that are conducive to check on their activities. Now, we have Nigerians coming in here. They come in because our immigration laws are very weak. They come in as students. We have bona fide students, don't take me wrong on that. And then they come in and convert our girls into drug contours or couriers who actually carry drugs out of this country. And many Kenyans are dying in Bangkok jail. We call it the Hilton jail. I went there for myself, and I saw about 200 Kenyans some years ago. So what we should do is to have very strict and stringent measures within the law, not these proclamations that come in from the minister from time to time, harassing some innocent people at times.
Okay, Prof, finally, because of time, let us deal with one of our own now. And yeah, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but you are Miguna's lawyer. I don't know if you still are. But do we expect to see Miguna back in the country?
That's a matter which is in court, is sub judice, and I cannot comment. Yes.
But what would you comment about the whole way in which he was treated when he came back twice?
We are addressing that issue in court. Yes.
Thank you very much, Prof.